Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Present.
Trustee Pagano?
Present.
Trustee Rogers?
Present.
Trustee Sweet?
Present.
Trustee Holtz? Trustee Varian?
Present.
Mayor Rich?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Reports and communications from Mayor and other officers. The Will County Division of Transportation will be resurfacing 143rd Street between Golden Oak Drive and Archer Avenue. Expect lane closures and beware of flaggers directing traffic. Be careful not to drive on fresh oil when present or drive slowly. This is my report before the trustees. We'll start down with Trustee Sweet.
Thank you, Mayor. The nominations for the Community and Nature and Harmony Awards are due July 15th. Please submit those to the village. I also want to thank the members of the Environment Committee for their efforts in putting together the insert in the Homer Horizon 2 weeks ago regarding July being plastic-free month. There was a lot of tips on how to reduce plastic waste, not only for July but throughout the year. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. The committee also wants to set up meetings with several of our restaurants to see what can be done to trim the use of plastics. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Sweet. Trustee Pagano.
No report.
Trustee Rogers.
Reporting on behalf of the Parks Committee, just a reminder that Chocolate Up event is coming up and the movie in the park as well. Just a reminder.
So it's on.
I don't think it's picked yet up on Monday.
Thank you, Trustee Rogers. Trustee Varian.
No report, Mayor.
Trustee Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting on behalf of Homerfest, we continue to look at the numbers. We had some expenses that we had to come in, but it does look like this year's event will be financial success, not banner success, but we will be in the black. We should know more by our next meeting. And that concludes my report for Homerfest. But on another note, Mayor, I would like to ask if at some point tonight we can discuss, either now or during new business, the board's consensus on reopening the fence between Heritage Park and the sports fields. We had sum it up, so to speak, for Homerfest, and I've had some residents reach out to me and ask if we can get it reopened. So,
Like we get the work back. Okay.
I know the ultimate goal is to, improve that and make, hopefully have some cooperation between the township and the village park and make a nice amenity over there. But for the time being, a lot of the residents in Saddlebrook, Stafford, they're just Dixie Lane and Woodland West have come to use that as an access point. So.
Okay. Works. Village manager. No clerk. Madam Clerk.
No report.
Village attorney.
No report, Your Honor.
Public safety. Administrative analyst.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to report that asphalt was completed as of this afternoon.
Congratulations. We're happy to hear that. That's it for your report?
Yes.
Village manager.
I got nothing after that.
Okay. We'll go with public comment. Okay, there's only one. Jeff Joniak.
So, my name is Jeff Joniak. I am the president of Oak Valley Homeowners Association. For those of you who don't know about Oak Valley, we are at 159th and Bell Road, and we're about 160 homes here in Homer, Glen. I'm here today to talk about some outstanding issues that my community is dealing with, and I'm hoping to get some help from you today to deal with these issues. First one I want to start with is the White House on 159th and Oak Valley Trail. Everyone knows it, everyone sees it, they drive past. How more people are complaining about this, I have no idea. We have been dealing with this for the last 8 to 9 years. We've spent $7,000 cutting this man's grass. Now they are finally been evicted. We still are dealing with this grass, and it's still an eyesore. I have calls weekly. I have nothing else to say to these people that are in my subdivision. They think I'm lying to them, because it sounds absurd when I say the same thing over and over again. So I found I had to come up to you guys and dude, I'm doing the same thing to you that they do. Something needs to be done. Not 2 more days, not 3 more days, not next week. I want that grass cut tomorrow. And then put the stuff. There's mice and vermins running around there, all sorts of stuff. That leads to, right next to it is the front sign. So 3 years ago, they tore down our front sign. And then all you see is now the house and the weeds that are taller than me that I had to take down myself twice. So I still can't get any answers on what is happening with this front sign. Okay, so it's supposedly on city property. Supposedly money got doled out for these things and to the businesses on 139th. No one knows what the sign is going back up or what's happening. We went down, we looked at the papers. They built a new curb, so obviously there's plans for something to be done there. They obviously were just going to let the weeds grow up to be my height forever if we didn't do anything, you know? So I just want some answers on what is happening with this front sign. Who's paying for this? We can't make any plans because no one tells us anything. We just want to know. Give us a number. I'll call that number myself. But the numbers I've given before have no answers. The retention area. Much help from this community here. We fixed a lot of that retention area. We're having flooded homes, and much help to this board. We got a grant for $110,000, and we fixed a lot of those problems. However, that finished in 2015. They removed 110 trucks full of dirt, and so now what? It's 2019. If you go over there, you can't cut the grass. I don't even know what it is. It's like it's not debris. It's something is coming down from 159th or something. If you walk over there, somebody needs to take a look. Maybe it's not even good for 159th. Something might be coming from somewhere. Because it's like spongy material and you can't cut the grass. Now it's all just sitting there and it can't be good. So more debris has come down in the last 3 years than the first 20 years. So the drainage at 159th seems like there's something's going on. We had flooding again last time. The viaducts were filled in the last big rain we had. So I ran up to a older couple we had. They were all concerned. I run up there. The rain had stopped. And then the viaducts must have released, so some dam broke, and it comes barreling out like it's shooting this odd debris up through the viaducts. There had to be some sort of issue going on. I would like to have somebody to take a look at that, or if it doesn't, I mean, a couple more years, the retention area is going to be, back to where it was or worse. So, which leads back to 189. I know everyone in the community deals with it. I might argue that we deal with it more than most. It's on 2 sides of our community, both entrances, trucks going back in, back out. This has been going on for so many years. We've talked with congressmen, senators, and he even said promised it was going to be done by December, end of December. The pavement's going to be done, and that's when you can find out some of this information about the signs, because then once the pavement's done, that's when the landscape starts. Then you'll get some answers. Blah blah blah. December's gone. They're still paving. They're still far away from being done paving, I understand everyone has to deal with it, but is there somehow we can get some answers? We'll find out who to call, who to complain to, what car can we get into that? I can fill this room. I can take it down to the city, wherever we want. That's how pissed off these people are. You just tell us where to go. That's all we want, some help. So, some answers. And with that, I think I'm done. So thank you.
If you could get a list of things up, put all your concerns down. Some we can probably help you with, some we will not be able to help you with. And as for the house is in foreclosure, we don't own it. The bank owns it, so the bank would be the one that has to be talked to make sure that's what we're doing from the village right here right now. But if you expect them to jump, it's not going to happen. So give us a list of what your concerns are, all of them. We'll look into them, we'll find out what they are, and we'll give you an answer if we can. We were told that the street will be done by the end of this year, not the landscaping, the street. But we were told that a few other times, so I mean, you pretty much, when it's done, it's done. We don't have any control over that. That's the state, that's judge law. So give us a list, and we will go over it, and we'll get together, and we will explain to you what we can, what we can't, and how long it's going to take.
So who's us? Who owns the
Joe,
You sent it to me.
Okay.
Are you, the sign you talked about, was that the subdivision sign or your?
Yes, the subdivision sign that says Oak Valley is brick and remove, take it down, and with all the curves. And that's what I'm talking about, say, filled the new curb in and just filled in with dirt 2 years ago, and then since it's just been dirt, and then obviously there's just weeds going in, and then people call me, like, where's my association fees going, why we're doing this, why we're doing that, but I can't, I've got to go in there and change it, and they're like, well, we're not done
I
yet.
believe that was just cut yesterday or the day before.
By us,
Oh, you guys.
yes.
All right, Joe, how about we do this, because we got to keep this going. Give me a list, right? Okay. Dave will verify that if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. But we have to find out what we can do first. You come up before us right now, and this is the first, I know that there's been issues, because there's issues up and down 159th Street. But listen, we'll go over it, we'll bring you in, we'll explain to you what it is, and we'll go from there. Good enough?
Yes,
Thank
so,
Okay, send it to me and I'll communicate with everyone.
okay.
All right, that's it for public comments. Okay, first one is going to be the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. If there is a motion to approve the following items. Number one, approval of the May 2019 Mahoney Silverman and Cross LLC legal bills in the amount of $9,617.65. Two, the purchase of 2 outdoor warning siren heads at a cost of $19,102. 3, pay estimate number 9 from Integral Construction for the Active Core Project in Heritage Park in the amount of $22,885. 4, pay estimate number 9 from Austin Tyler Construction, Inc. for the Fittiman Creek Sanitary Sewer Project in the amount of $77,396.02. Number 5, the repairs and resurfacing of the Erin Hills Park Bike Trail as part of the Homer Township Road District's 2019 roadway improvement project in the amount of $43,555.40. 6, the accounts payable for the period of June 28, 2019 through July 11, 2019 in the amount of $764,041.85. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
I'll second.
trustee Squeeze. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pazino?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Spees?
Aye.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries. Legislation and action items. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-020, an ordinance amending Article 7 of Chapter 83 of the Code of the Village of Homer, Glen, providing for the control of alcoholic liquor and primary update liquor classifications, including the staff provisions of the wine craft beer boutique definition?
So moved.
Trustee Gray? Trustee Berger? And
Sure. Second.
it's going to get you there on the wall here. Okay, is there discussion?
Mayor and Village Board, I do have a few more changes that I'd like to go ahead and just get into the record and the re-ordinance if possible right now. I did have a meeting with Trustee Gray just a little while ago, and he had some questions and pointed out a few areas. So we have a couple of typos we can clean up and just a quick language cleanup.
That's fine.
So what I'd like to do is just direct you to the actual ordinance and the red line version itself. And if you go to page 16, and this would be under class 5 for hotel licenses, and we have two classes, an R1 and an R2. If you look at both 1B and 2B, we simply want to drop the last part of the sentences there. The language we want to drop would be, and not for resale in any form. So the sentence would just simply end right before that phrase that we want to drop. That would be the first change. The second change would be on page 21. And this would be under section C1C. And on the first line, you'll see the word sees, and it should be the word size. That's simply a typo. And then the last one is on page 22, and it's under section E1, and it's the third line down, and you'll see it says cross incoming. That should be gross income. Those are just two typos. So those, actually 4 changes, 2 typos and the removal of the same phrase in 2 items.
And I'd just like to add, are we, do we have somehow incorporated in this change? It's not in the packet piece?
So to just go over the page that was placed on the dais this evening, we wanted to relocate and clarify the definition for wine craft beer boutique. There was a actual beer wine boutique definition in the use table. That is the definition that matches the spirit of the new liquor classification that is being proposed for approval. And rather than have that definition as well as brewery pub be in the use table section, it makes more sense for it to be part of the liquor code section. So we simply relocate that definition. We also needed to add the word craft in front of every instance where you see beer. So it is now the wine/craft beer boutique, and the language that we grabbed from the use table that we've been really trying to use all along. So we would delete the language that was in the proposed amendments under the liquor control selection section, replacing it with this definition from the use table. So we did suggest a modified motion for consideration, which now needs to be a little bit slightly further modified for the late arrivals.
Are you all set, Jamie?
That's it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Jamie?
I have a question regarding definitions. When you look at on page 2, it says create a new classification for specialty business. It says weight. But do we need at this time, or do we look at that later, what is a specialty business? Do we need to put that into the definitions, or do we wait on that?
The board's direction from the workshop was to not create a classification for specialty business, so at this time there's no need to address the definition.
And also, just another definition, do we have to be more specific? Say on page 14 under, that was O, and it was letter D, where it said other retail stores. Do we have to be more specific on what we mean by other retail stores? Because that could incorporate anything, I guess.
Well, they would have to be a retailer.
Okay.
So presumably this would not include salons and spas.
But I looked up in the business dictionary, and I mean, looking, I just want to make sure that's not a loophole.
Mm-hmm.
In the business dictionary, it says the definition of a retail store, a store that sells products or services to the general public. And it mentions services, so could that be a loophole? I mean, maybe that's something we have to look into.
Well, they can't do it without a license in the first place, so it's something that they would have to try to come to us to see if we were going to give a license. But at this point, the option's not on the table.
Okay. Just trying to,
Oh, I don't disagree with you. So, the answer would be no, but they don't have a license, they can't.
okay, that's all I want to know.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
Do we need to amend the motion, Mayor?
Yes, if you can amend the motion to incorporate the staff revisions that were discussed tonight. As part of the motion.
I would amend my motion.
And then amend my second.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino?
Madam Clerk, I must abstain. I am a liquor license.
Thank you, and motion carries. Next, is there, we have an ordinance amending section 83-49 of the Village Code licensing and regulating video gaming within the Village of Homer, Glen. So is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-029, an ordinance amending section 8349 of the Village Code licensing and regulating video gaming within the Village of Homer, Glen to clarify the prohibition of video gaming at automobile service stations?
I so move.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Sweet, Trustee Berry, discussion? I'll explain something so this way we say we know the audience. Right now, gaming is not allowed in anything in Homer, Glen unless it's a restaurant and it has a liquor license and it's a minimum of 1,500 square foot. What we were thinking is, you get the gas stations in here and they decide to throw a restaurant on the inside of it, and then we'll do enough from there. And we've already passed an ordinance not allowing the gas stations at all. So this way eliminates them from coming through the back door of putting in a restaurant on the inside. It just covers us so we don't have gaming in every single solitary business in the village. So that's the explanation on that one. So, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino?
I must abstain. I have a gaming license as well.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Thank you, Trustee Kazmino, and motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-030, an ordinance amending the use of the vote tables for non-residential districts, Table 2 of Chapter 220, and the rules and definitions of Article 3, Chapter 220, Village of Homer, Glen, case number HG 1810AJ.
I think that's just A. Not J. That's a full bracket.
No? Okay.
So moved.
All right. So we have Trustee Gray, Trustee Berry, and discussion. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next would be a workshop item. Logan Gilbertson, project engineer from HR Green, will be presenting an overview of the 2013 grant area native planning in Heritage Park. Logan, it's all yours.
Thank you. All right. All right, well, good evening. Thank you for having me again. It's nice to see you all. So, as you all know, So today we're really just going to do an update on where we are with the Heritage Park 319 program. We recently completed all of the landscape items out there, and I have good news I found out just a couple hours ago. The final remaining item on the grant was to have a grant report turned into the EPA, which stated what we said we were going to do, what we did, photograph it, document it, turn that in. That was the last item that they were waiting for prior to releasing the last of the grant amount. So that report has been approved. So now the full remaining amount of the $522,000 about will be released to the village. So all grant has been achieved and used up. So, but today I would like to talk about the vegetation. That's what I would like to focus on. I want to go over what should we expect the park to actually look like in these areas. Kind of discuss what it's looking like now. What do you see when you look out the window? Think about what the timeline is. How long is it going to take for everything to mature? And then go over what maintenance is going to be required on the site. So, what to expect? This is what I expect the fishing pond to look like as it matures. Add a couple of limestone outcroppings that we add in there for fishing. This is what it's going to look like. The large open prairie areas out along the bike path out there, as they mature, this is what you would expect to see. See a lot of grasses, a lot of wildflowers. This is a few things. This is habitat for wildlife and pollinators, and it is a sponge. This is going to soak up a whole lot more water than the turf grass used to soak up. So this is also where we get the stormwater benefit from, and why we got this grant for it. This is an example of what the northern wetland basin is going to look like. This one has a lot of bounce to it as it rains. Water levels go up and down quite a bit, but the seed mixes that you see in this picture, they're essentially the same as what we use out on the site. And then this is a photograph of a bioswale. Heritage Park has about 900 feet of bioswale on it. And again, relatively the same seed mixture. So as the site matures, this is what I expect it to look like. But you might be saying, I just drove by out there right now. It doesn't look like this. It looks like this. And this is what we kind of call the look for a one-year site. You see predominantly weeds and cover crop. These are not the things that you would expect to see. You want to see the wildflowers, you want to see the nice tall grasses. But if you get down and look really, really close at this photo, there's two of the species of native grass that are starting to poke out here. Little blue stem and switchgrass. There's multiple types of wildflowers coming up here. And actually, if you go out on the site right now, there are a few that are starting to bloom. So we have coneflower poking up in here. We had New England aster, which is going to produce a purple flower in the fall. And there's just good signs of what it's doing. You'll also see that there's a lot of kind of open space in there. You can see straw on the ground. It's not fully vegetated through. This is a good thing. That means that the weeds haven't filled up those spots. We're waiting for the plants that we want to actually grow up. And if all that ground had been covered up, that likely means that the weeds took over a little bit more than what we wanted them to. So, since I said we just recently planted the entire site, we put in nearly 20,000 plant plugs. These are just small native plants. We seeded 28.6 acres with different types of native seed. All this was covered with an erosion blanket or a straw mulch. And then we installed 30 trees on the site. There were 2 species of oak tree and then 1 species of hackberry. These are all native to the area. So, this is what you look at right now if you go out there and see the fishing pond. You can see the limestone steps that we put in, that's the actual fishing access. But in the water, there's that thin row of emergent plants. These are wetland plants that we put in. A little bit further up the shoreline are smaller plant plugs. And the plant plugs are, like I said, just a very small, only about this tall, 1-year-old plant. This is a photo of that bioswale. As I showed you earlier, it's going to look like a lot of wildflowers. You won't really be able to see that there's an actual ditch there as it gets older. But in this photo, you can see there's water flowing through it. If you look really close, there's lots of little kind of pinpricks in there, and those are the 1-year-old plant plugs that we installed. Something I want to point out on here too is that there's actually water flowing through it. If you go out there right now, it's a little damp at the bottom, even though it hasn't rained for a few days. And the reason that this is happening is because when this site was a golf course, it was drained through field tiles and drain tiles. These are perforated pipes that are put underground, and they help control the groundwater so that you don't get soggy spots all over the site. When we went in and did the earthwork to grade all the stormwater benefit, all the basins and things out there, all of these plastic pipes were essentially ripped up. They were damaged beyond repair, but that's okay because this is now going to be a wetland in a lot of spots. So we have nearly a dumpster full of this plastic pipe. And this is actually a good thing because now rather than that groundwater being piped directly out of the site, it's going to be feeding all of these plants that we installed, even when it's not raining. Another shot of the stormwater basin. It's at the southeast corner of the site. You can almost see it from the parking lot or Heritage Circle over here. And again, this one you can see all those little dots along the bottom. Those are the one-year-old plants. This picture, the date's in the bottom right corner, was June 13th. And I just stopped out there before this presentation. You can't really tell where those single plants are anymore. It's filled in that much since then. And a lot of that is due to the fact that it is a constant feed of groundwater now that all the drain tiles out there are no longer functioning. And just for scale, this is really how big the natives are right now. This year I wouldn't expect them to get taller than 6 to 8 inches because what they're doing is focusing on the root structure. So this exhibit up here on the right is something I believe I actually have shown you before. This is showing really how deep the roots go on native plants. A lot of time, these native prairie plants, you see them get waist high. Some species that we did not plant out here can be 6 feet tall. But the thing is that how much you see above ground, they're going that deep into the ground as well. And it takes a lot of energy to grow that root structure. So the first year, native plants are very slow growing. They're focusing all their energy into their roots. They're perennial plants, which mean that that root structure brings back a new plant the next year. They don't need to seed and fully start over. They continue to build upon what they had the year before. Now, a lot of the weeds that we have out there, the non-native weeds, these are annuals. That means that they grow up, they go to flower, they go to seed, and they rely on those seeds. The root structure is not bringing them back each year. So, if you get rid of the seeds, you can pretty effectively get rid of the plant. And another thing that we have out there is the cover crop. This is something that we put into the seed mixture to actually produce a plant this year. The two that we used are a Virginia wild rye and common oats, and they actually look like this. If you drive along 151st Street, you see a lot of stuff that's knee high, looks like grass. You think, oh, it'll die. Well, it's meant to die this year. This is really supposed to be there to outcompete with the weeds, because it grows about as quick as they do. And it also helps to hold the soil in place. So if we didn't have the cover crop in there, all the rain hitting the ground would potentially lose some seeds. The weeds will take up that spot. And the whole point of this is just to compete with the weeds in year one. So the timeline on this is followed by something called sleep, creep, and leap, which I originally thought my mother-in-law came up with this because it's the first place I heard it. But then I started hearing it from other people in the field, and I realized, okay, that's not just her own thing. But what this means is that in 2019, they're going to sleep, which means they're growing their roots. 2020, you're starting to see something. And then 2021 is when they really take off. And now, going along with that sleep, creep, and leap, you need to consider what type of maintenance fits with that type of growth structure. So this year, as I said, they're only going to get to be plants that we want. Will only get to be about 6 to 8 inches high. And the weeds are going to grow up very quickly and go to seed. We don't want the weeds to get tall enough to go to seed. So a method of controlling them is to mow the entire site. And not mow it like you would with turf grass, just a couple inches tall. We're talking about 8 inches high. That way the natives are not impacted, but all the weeds are cut off. And basically to start growing again to get another flower. Our contractor is expected to go mow by, I think they're scheduled for next week. With how dry it's been, I don't see why they won't be out there next week. So after they mow, they're going to go out there and do spot herbiciding. This is where they will hand walk around with a sprayer herbicide and hit each individual weed, because there are certain species of weeds that are perennials, meaning they do come back from their root structure. Mowing them won't kill them. So these are ones that we actually have to hand treat. And as I mentioned, this year we're not going to see a lot of actual above ground growth from the natives because they're focusing on the roots. Now next year, since we helped kind of knock out the weeds by mowing them, we're going to see more growth from the natives. They're going to be able to actually start competing with the weeds. They've got the root structure, they're going to start taking off. Next year they can, early in the season, mow, but they have to raise the mower deck again because, like I said, we don't want to be cutting off the native plants that we want there. And again, they might need to go through and do some spot herbiciding for weeds that are just persistent. That's something that is always expected on these sites. And last thing that they may need to do next year is if there are areas that simply just did not take, where they need to come back in and reseed, that's something that might need to be done next year. But from walking the site right now, that's pretty minimal where that would need to be done. And then lastly, there's a typo up here. It's supposed to be 2021 leap. This is when our native plants are going to be competing very well with the weeds. They're hopefully going to be just taking over where the weeds can't grab hold anymore. Something that's really nice about this is that these native plants, once they get going, they don't need watering, they don't need fertilizer or anything, they just do what they do. Their root structure gets them deep enough in the ground that they'll thrive. And in that leap year, we're getting to the point that they're just about ready to burn. So controlled burns are something that is necessary for maintaining a native landscape over time. They're very beneficial because what they do is basically kill off any weed seeds, because the weeds that aren't supposed to be here, they can't handle the heat. And it also does really good work for just fertilizing the soil with all that biomass that has accumulated over the past 3 years. You get to burn it, and that's something that will typically be done on a 3-year cycle. I've got a few pictures here of what this maintenance actually looks like. Mowing doesn't have a good picture, but the spot herbiciding is something that you can actually see. This picture here is a little curled up picture of a thistle. This was sprayed about 3 days before I took this picture, and it's amazing how quick they curl up. And you can see in the background there, all the native plants are still doing fine. So this is really what I mean. They're not broadcast spraying like you would see in someone doing on their lawn. They're going around and hand hitting each individual weed. A lot of the time the contractor will do this with a dye in their herbicide, so like a blue or a red or something like that, where they can actually, there's a team of them know, I already hit that weed, it's got dye on it. And it's a good way for me to go out there and verify that yes, they actually sprayed the whole site. And then, as I mentioned, burning is another item. This is a site that we had planted 3 years ago, so this was the first time that it was ever burned. And you can't tell on the left there, there's people's backyards right there. These contractors who do control burns, they're very safe about them. They plan with the wind. If you are close to structures or fences or sensitive trees, pine trees, they will go in and pre-mow buffers around them just so they know they're not going to have any accidents happen. But, this site, this was early in the spring. The ground is pitch black, and when the sun hits that, it heats it up very quickly and starts spurring growth. And then this picture is taken in the exact same spot, and it was only 2 weeks later. So, it's not the prettiest thing to have a big 20-plus acres of burnt charred earth out there, but it comes back very quickly. And it will actually, once you get that first burn, speed up the whole process, and it's really going to start looking like something. So, that's all I have for you tonight, but I can stick around for questions.
Oh, no, we're good. It does look beautiful out there.
All right, thank you.
Next, is there any old business?
Old business, new business, what?
New business, fenced by the library and the football fields. So do you want it back to where we get it in the first place?
That's what I'm requesting, is that we agree or not agree as a board to, ask staff to reopen it the way it was before home request. And again, I think enough of us that talks about, it'd be great if we can make some sort of improved pathway there, but we're not at that point right now. But certainly people can walk back and forth. It was used last fall.
The end of the football season.
Right. So, and like I said, I've had a few residents ask me already about, can we get it back, open back up? It's a shortcut from coming out of Woodbine West and stuff to get into the park, so.
I didn't have an issue with it before. Does anyone here have a?
I have a question. Are you talking about a pathway, or are you talking about taking, how much of this?
I'm just asking to have, remember the fence was like kind of cut down center and they just folded it back?
Yeah, it was
Just so
like
there
8 or 10 feet wide.
Right, it was one section between two poles.
Right.
I mean, eventually, I would like to see us as a board, as a village, get to the point where we make an improved access point back and forth, but I don't think we're there yet. But for right now, just for convenience for the residents, yes.
You good? You good?
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing executive session minutes 5 ILCS 120-2C21 and litigation 51 LCS 120-2C11?
So moved.
Trustee Rogers?
I'll second.
Trustee Swees? There will be, so nothing's going to be voted on, so there will be nothing brought back to the board. Okay. You guys want to come? All right, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Varian.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino. Trustee Holtz. Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Sweet.
Aye.
Okay.